Going live. Here we are.
Hello and welcome to today's Help Musicians webinar with Barnaby Duff and myself, Maya Callie. Hello, Barnaby. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm good. Sun's shining, so it's all good.
Good.
How about you?
Exactly. I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I just want to thank you for your time as well. This event is put on by Come Play With Me and Launchpad, and we really do appreciate your time, especially as today, what are we speaking about?
So we're going to speak about Help Musicians. We're going to speak about the offer of Help Musicians, the support that we can give to you guys. And then we're going to kind of drill down into the application forms, telling you all of the sort of tips and tricks to use if you're interested in applying for project funding. But also just something you can take away and kind of understand, this is what Help Musicians can do for me.
And so just for people who may not know, within Help Musicians, you are the creative program officer. What does that entail?
Yeah, so in the creative team, what we do is, we offer project funding, grants of up to £5,000 for professional development. So projects, products or learning development. And we also offer 360 support, we call it. So we do business advice mentoring on top of that with industry experts that we employ. And we also give health and welfare support as well. So it's kind of a 360 package, all tailored towards you as an individual.
Very nice. I will let you take it away then. I mean, I could interject with loads of questions, but I'll let you do your thing.
That's cool.
And tell us a little bit about more in detail, especially the health and welfare. I'm really interested in that section.
Amazing. Yeah, so who is Help Musicians? I think, if we go straight onto that slide, that'd be amazing. Thank you. So we've been around for 100 years now. And over the years, we've continued to adapt our supports. So my colleague was looking through one of our earliest records. It was really sweet, just a little kind of postcard type thing in our record box, where we'd given £3 for a pianist to take his exam at the Royal College of Music in 1928. Of course, we've been around since 1921. And it was founded by a guy called Gervais Yules, who was a really talented tenor, voice artist, who tragically died in a train accident in America. And his good friends, Vaughan Williams and Elgar, created what was called the Musicians Benevolent Fund, which then turned into Help Musicians in 2014. So we've been providing health and welfare support for musicians since the beginning. So that's, if you found yourself in debt, if you have a broken arm and you're a violinist, if you're going through a crisis of any sort, Help Musicians was like the safety net, and still is for musicians suffering on hard times. But in the 1980s, we expanded into project funding, and more recently, as I mentioned to Maya, we've been doing business advice support on top of that. So we don't just give you a grant and say goodbye. We kind of give you the guidance along with that and help you along the way. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So we'll talk about now the supporting musicians to create. This is the kind of product thing that I was telling you about, creating an album, EP, singles, creating videos. So this is out now, and it's known as the Do It Differently Fund. It closes on the 15th of March at 9 a.m. And it can support you kind of make that product what you need to do for financing, and it gives you those business skills alongside as well. So it's bringing your musical ideas to life and turning your project into reality. So it's a grant of £3,000, and in the application, you choose 2 business advice topics to complement your plan. So you might choose fan engagement with our guy, Coyote Thomas, or you might do sort of touring plans with Rachel Morton. And it really kind of complements your plan and helps you build a really good strategy. And along with this package of support to help you do your project, you also get health and wellbeing tools as well from our partners at BAPAM, who can kind of change your habits and help you get new sort of healthy practices within your work. So that's a Do It Differently Fund, and we'll go through the application a little bit later at the end to tell you what to expect and how to make a strong application. So next slide, please. So this is one of the artists that came through last year, called Constant Follower. His whole project kind of came to a standstill. Obviously, he's from Scotland, and he was halfway through his project. Just needed the mastering, promoting to release his debut album and singles, and obviously it just came to a standstill because, as a musician, as an independent musician, you might rely on a supply chain of people, other experts. And he had a huge loss of income, of course, due to the pandemic. And he really benefited from, of course, the injection of support to help get the mastering and the promotion over the line, but also the business support, describing the expertise as truly top class, working with the biggest musicians in the industry, and was able to pay them properly as well, from musicians' union rates, which we always champion. And he picked up lots of top tricks and tips to improve his connection to fans and increase his streams. And following his successful debut with his album, he's gone on to sign with his dream label and is growing every day. So we love this guy. He really embraced it and is doing really well. So yeah, we're dead proud of him. On to the next slide, please. So we not only help you kind of make a product, if you like, we actually help you develop your careers through skills as well. So lots of people have kind of taken advantage or have thought of this kind of time, this lockdown time, when you're not able to go out and tour and perform. You might want to go in and sort of hone your skills and create a specialty within the field. So you might want to, learn, a specific sort of drumming technique, so you can be that expert in your field. So people on TV and film will come to you, and you'll get work through there. Or you might want to add another string to your bow as well. And the beauty of all our funding, on the creative side, is that it's all self-directed. So you come to us with an idea of what you want to, what gap you want to fill, what project you want to do. And if you present, a case for it that looks realistic and can happen, we can help you. So people have done mixing and mastering courses, music production courses. They've taken stuff in-house, like I was saying with Constant Follower there. Like he was just at a standstill because he was halfway through sort of his mixing and mastering. But if you do one of these kind of, if we can support you doing one of these projects and learning and mixing and mastering, you can do it yourself. And you might want to open yourself up as a studio engineer as well as a musician. So it's a really nice opportunity there to work with a mentor or attend a conference or do a masterclass or a songwriting camp and use this time to develop. So yeah, on to the next slide, please. And we'll talk about Ruta, who did just that. She was in a similar situation where she was kind of at a standstill halfway through the year, and she was so close to kind of finishing her projects, but was dependent on other people to do so. But she went and did a mixing and mastering course and online mentorship lessons, and was able to complete her work online with musicians, collaborating, paying them to teach her, and exploring online live music event possibilities. So we're still able to perform her primary sort of love of music. So yeah, we're dead proud of her as well. And yeah, she recorded, mixed and mastered her own vocals for her next EP, which is due to be out soon. So yeah, on to the next slide, please. So supporting musicians' health and well-being, that's always been kind of our thing, but now more than ever, it's really, really important. So we've got an in-house team of professionals who can find right solution to help you. A really wonderful team. And what I love about the support of this team is it's so agile. Like we're able to, like, it's sort of like what I was saying about the paying for that guy to do an exam, in 1928. It's so agile, and we can buy people washing machines if they're not able to afford washing machines, or we've made people's like homes accessible if they're a new wheelchair user. So it's really kind of thinking about the person, what they need, and able to do just wonderful things to make their life easier. So if you ever kind of need that kind of support, it's really just a phone call away or an email. Just ask a bit more information about your circumstances, and we can get a conversation going about that. Yeah, as we say, physio to injury, debt advice or referrals to specialists, everything around being a musician that's not the music itself. Think health and welfare. And there's the contact details there as well. We have a really successful scheme. It's really nice. I've done it myself. It's the Musicians Hearing Health Scheme. So normally if you were to go to have an audiological assessment and get bespoke earplugs, it would cost you a bomb. It would cost you about 300 quid, 400 quid. We subsidise that almost completely to 40 quid. It's a really nice scheme. So if you're comfortable doing that, I think the new clinics are opening up, all based around the UK. So you'll be able to find a local one near you, I'm sure, and get that support through us as well. So musicians, I think, no, the website's called Here for Musicians. So like Here for Musicians. So have a look at that if you're interested. As I say, I've done it myself and it makes such a huge difference. And I was a little bit skeptical, like people are at first, where you think, oh no, is that going to take away from the gig experience? But they're so good and they're so bespoke that they actually, really add to it as well. And of course, you know, lots of people tell you from being exposed to music for so long, particularly, if you are performing on a regular basis, that it's so important to look after your hearing. And we had a very harrowing talk from our partners who delivered the scheme for us at Harley Street Hearing, who told us all about just about the ear and how it works and stuff. So definitely look into that. We've got another service called Music Minds Matter, which is a 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And it's been a really important service, particularly last year. So you ring up and it's totally free. You can be completely anonymous as well. And there are two options when you ring up. You can speak either to a trained therapist and receive CBT over the phone, or referred to, and just they can provide that listening ear. Or you can press 2 and you can speak to a trained advisor who can offer support on stuff like debt, advice on debt and stuff like that, everything around emotional health. So it's a really vital service, and we've made a lot of we've adapted it a lot for the recent challenges that musicians have had to face. So if you work in the industry, you don't have to be a musician. If you do work in the industry and need the support, check that out as well. And we work really closely with that service as well. So you'll get referred into our in-house team if that's what you need as well. So check that out. Next slide, please. Oh, I think there might be one before, or have I? Yeah, there we go. Support during coronavirus. Okay, so last year we provided the financial hardship funding. We had, I think, around 20,000 applications, and we offered £500 to each of them. It was a really humbling and privileged experience to offer that level of support. Me and basically the whole organisation were looking through applications each evening, and it was amazing, and it was great to keep going. Of course, we've adapted our hardship funding to meet the needs of people who aren't eligible for SICE or an universal credit, or maybe that support doesn't quite cover all their sort of expenses and needs. So if you feel like that's you, definitely check out the Hardship 3, which is open now. And we're going to be doing a Hardship 4 as well, based on the government announcement tomorrow with a new budget, thinking about, who's going to be left needing support as well. So do check that out and keep tabs on that. We also have collated all the resources across the industry, so you don't have to keep going to each and every one. So UK Music, AIM UK, ISM, all the guidance is on coronamusicians.info for support and advice during this period. So have a look at that. I think that's it for the charity offer support section. If there's any questions, do follow us on the socials.
Currently on the screen, but for the Hardship 3, you said that you're about to start a Hardship 4, depending on what the outcome is tomorrow. But when is the deadline for the Hardship 3 COVID fund?
Oh, yes. So we're going to be doing it up until April. and then adapting it based on the announcements tomorrow, and then April till September, I think it is the next kind of like financial kind of terms, I think. So so we're always waiting with bated breath, as everyone is, for the government.
It was brilliant though. I actually received it myself, and it was a massive help. Is it because it was last time it was £500, wasn't it, for the hardship fund? Is it the same this time? Is it the same every time for the hardship?
Yeah, so it was £500 initially, and that was just to keep everyone tied over as well, because of course, God, it feels like another life, doesn't it? But it was, people were really left to kind of think about their food and rent and bills and everything in between and stuff. And after that, we kind of adapted it, so it's based on how much you get in your universal credit. So you could get more than £500, but they're in like installments and stuff, and it's completely based on your need as an individual or as a family. So if you're like the primary income person for your family or group, then it could be different for that. There's lots of variable factors that we take into account, and like I say, it could be more than £500, but just enough to kind of tide you over and hopefully keep you being a musician as well. We actually had some really interesting and harrowing survey results back from, we've surveyed a lot of musicians, and there's so many out there who are thinking about packing it in general, and so many people that are worried about their long-term sort of income. So we were constantly monitoring and trying to find out what we can about musicians' mood, about the industry, about the government support, what's going to be out there. We're thinking 2022 is going to be the time that maybe it levels out, and that depends on the B word as well. What the effect that's going to have. So it's a really weird time, isn't it? So we're just kind of taking it as it goes.
Just with regards, because you kind of mentioned universal credit there, we've got a question asking, if you're successful in getting funding, will it affect your universal credit?
No, it won't actually. That's a really good question, because what our payments kind of count as is like a donation. So it wouldn't be income. So no, not a donation, it's a gift. So it wouldn't affect your income. There are ways that we can get around that as well. I know for a lot of disabled musicians that we support, who are obviously kind of worry about their sort of benefits being affected, we do it via a representative and stuff like that. So there are ways that we can be flexible and sensitive to people's needs and stuff. So yeah.
And then just reverting back to the health and well-being section, with the health and well-being, just in the overall thing, what's the waiting list like in terms of getting in touch? Maybe if it's help musicians for your mental state or for another issue.
Absolutely, our team are fantastic, and we've actually we've grown our health and welfare team to meet the needs. Of course, as you'd expect, our cases have grown. So we did have 100 new caseloads a month before the virus. Now we've got 400 a month, but they're so fantastic. I had to refer someone just today who was in crisis, and and everyone was in a meeting. We were in an organizational meeting, but still I got a reply straight away from one of my colleagues who was able to ring that person and get a hold of them because they were their caseworker, and we resolved that really quickly. So I've got a huge amount of faith in our health and welfare team. I think they're fantastic, and if you come to us with an issue, then you'll definitely get a response.
That's amazing. Is it a large team?
I think there's it's bigger than the creative team, but we're all one whole sort of program. So there's 12 people, I think, maybe in health and welfare.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Thank you to those guys. We have another question asking, is there a need to be a member to access the hearing support? Any fees other than £40 you mentioned?
No, so yeah, I guess it's worth mentioning we're not a member organisation, so you don't pay anything to access our services. Like I say, it's just a phone call or an email, and we'll be able to help. And we're a charity, so we, don't ask for anything in return. So yeah, you don't need to be a member. I think you we act as referee. You just have to be a professional musician, and to prove that, and then we're able to kind of refer you through Here for Musicians website.
And then, sorry, this might be quite might be quite obvious. What comes under professional musician within the realms of help musicians?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So you have to be over 18 to access our services. You have to have a year under your belt. So yeah, performances or whatever your kind of discipline entails. So we support producers, composers, studio engineers, music therapists, piano tuners, anything that requires a high level of musical skill, we support. You have to be a UK resident, and you have to have resided in the UK for over 185 days. You don't have to be from the UK. So, all nationalities welcome as long as you're a resident in the UK. And this is across creative, so project funding and for health and welfare as well. So, yeah, as long as you tick those boxes, and as long as you don't have over £16,000 in savings, then we'd be able to help as well. So there's a few, little bullet points. I think I've covered them all. But anytime that you apply for something, you'll go through that eligibility criteria, and it's not a long list. But yeah, should be all answered in there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I don't think we have any more questions. So if you'd like to continue on with the slides.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to get down into the application now, which is what you'll see for the Do It Differently Fund if you're interested in applying for that, or to the Transmission Fund, which is the Learning and Development fund I was talking about as well. So when you're applying to funding with Help Musicians, we ask you 3 fundamental questions, which is your bio, your project outline, and the impact of the funding, what that impact would be for your career. So all these kind of questions kind of form a narrative of who you are, basically. So we want to know about your past, your present, and your future. And yeah, get a sense of why it's a really important opportunity for you. So we're looking at economic need. Why now? Why is this a pivotal point? Like I was talking about those two artists before. Constant Follower, it was a really pivotal time for him. Needed to kind of release and promote his record. Ruta was kind of at a standstill. She needed to bring some skills in-house. So they both really justified their need and the career sustainability benefits for themselves. And I guess it's kind of useful. I've said it before, kind of like thinking about the positioning within the funding realm. If you think about Arts Council, you might say that like they invest in musical leaders across the UK. So they want to really kind of help local music communities and local people connect and engage with music. So they kind of get one musical leader, invest in them, and it trickles down. With PRS Foundation, they're interested in kind of enriching the musical landscape. So they want to create original music and help new, unique voices from diverse backgrounds get their music out there. With Help Musicians, when you're applying to us, your audience is, we want to help you create a sustainable and healthy career in music. So we're really interested in you as the individual and the health and sustainability impact that's going to have on you. So yeah, when you're approaching us or any other funder, you might want to kind of have that kind of framework in mind, because that's what we're looking at. Yeah, so next slide, please. So your bio. So we want to know, the people and places that have shaped you. We want to know about the performances, support slots. We want to know about you as a project manager as well, because you're applying for funding. You're applying to do a project, so we want to know how you're going to deliver it. And it's good to know that you've got a bit of a track record as well. So, yeah. So thinking about that, we want to sort of hear your voice through the application, and you are able to do a video application, so we could literally hear your voice by doing this. And lots of people do that for the bio as well, because they can do lots of press clippings and really sort of communicate who they are. But yeah, rather than a straight copy and paste of your press release, which of course make up the bulk of what you're going to say in your bio, you might want to write it in first person, add kind of prefixes about how you've self-released, self-promoted, self-marketed, self-directed projects, because with the Do It Differently Fund in particular, we're looking to help independent music creators create and deliver projects as well. So talk about times that you've been an independent musician, talk about your experience, because that's what we want to hear about. Next slide, please. So your projects, I always think, you could kind of format it a little bit like a job description. So you could do a bullet point or a heading and sort of say, equipment purchase. This is the equipment I want to purchase, and justify why you need it. You put it in chronological order. Detail is absolutely key throughout your application, but it's particularly key for this bit, because we want to know the names of the people involved. We want to know their dates of availability. We want to know their rates. What we're kind of looking for is to see that you've gone to that step where you've gone out for quotes for people, and you've had the conversation with people, made a phone call. So, okay, this studio engineer, she'll be free in April 2021, here from here. So we've got a ready-made project in place for you to make happen, and justify your chosen collaborators as well, and your choices within the application. Maybe they're the best in their field, the studio engineer. Maybe they have a resonance with your musical community or something that you're doing as well. Maybe they're a specialist. What value will they add to your project? These are all things that we really want to know in your application. Next slide, please. Which brings us on to the impact of the project. Oh, sorry, next slide. Thank you. So it's really, really difficult, but try to avoid cliches like I want to take my career to the next level, and really think about what that means and the tangible results. So each project should last about a year. You'll Do It Differently Fund or your transmission should last a year. So try and think about yourself that, down at the end of that year, which is hard, but a useful exercise to do to envision yourself at that stage is, think about an artist that you admire. It's not too far down the line from where you are right now, and ask yourself, what venues are they playing? What number of listeners are they hitting? How do they reach their audiences online and through radio? And retrace their steps. So think about what a radio plugger they're working with, who's their team around them, what links do they have to these places, and how can you kind of copy essentially their journey to develop your own career. Yeah, so that's about the sum of it, really. Just a few extra things to add, because what we've done this time is add in a risk assessment. Of course, because we want to know that all of your projects can happen in lockdown sort of times. So not resting on any laurels and what the government kind of say about, when live events will happen. We want to know that you've got a plan B and a backup plan, and you're thinking about the various risks involved to show us that. How we kind of mark everything is in-house. Help musicians team and the creative team We mark your bio out of 5, your project out of 5, your impact, risk assessment out of 3, and then we kind of really look at each part and mark it. And then if it reaches a certain threshold, then we elevate it to an independent panel of experts who will look about it, who are experts in their field and experts in their genre as well. Excuse me. And that's in a panel context as well. So they make various recommendations for who the charity should fund. So various other things to remember. Use the word count, and by that I mean just be as detailed as possible. Make sure your budget adds up. So if you're asking for £2,000, make sure that that's in your income. So £2,000 expenditure, £2,000 income. Keep it simple and make sure your writing makes sense by getting a friend to read it. Ensure your online presence is up to date, because we're looking at all these links that you provided as part of our kind of due diligence as well, to see what you're up to and how you kind of communicate with your audience. Give your strongest and most recent examples first. And for video, prepare your answers in advance to recording as well, so you're not kind of doing ad lib to camera, because that's really sort of obvious when you do. So it's good to have stuff ready and to tell us about the plan in good detail. So that's about some of it, really. Hope that sounds pretty straightforward. Just getting some questions in.
I think also one of the questions was regarding the pivotal point of someone's career, or the pivotal point is the reason why they need it right now. Could we go a bit more into detail? Because surely every point is pivotal in a way.
Yeah, it is. I think it's it's about how you justify that though, to us in the application, because we need to know that information. So what would the funding enable you to do, and why, if you didn't have it, would it be possible or not? So we're kind of looking at that kind of thing. If it's a pivotal point, we're looking at ambitious projects as well, but realistic projects. And by that I mean, are you using the same studio engineer that you did for your EP, or are you reaching out to a new sort of person who's going to add a new kind of element and new value to your project? So that innovation and that kind of that interest in that new kind of direction is something that we're looking for as well. So and that's kind of the classic kind of role of a funder as well. We make stuff happen that wouldn't necessarily happen through conventional or commercial avenues. Interesting sort of sonic art projects, or people working within niches and playing really sort of specialized instruments. We kind of really help support that sector of musician.
I think we've also got another question asking, would it be possible to say what one could include within the time to create aspect of the budget?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think it could be clearer, definitely. So time to create is basically a fee for your own time. That would otherwise be time that you'd be working, or if you're kind of bringing your rehearsal time together, you pay yourself a fee for that, and pay collaborators a fee for that as well. So that's time to create, time to kind of develop the project. And it's careful. You've got to be careful to know when to kind of stop, because you could easily be like, well, I'm going to do a project for 3 months, so I'm just going to pay myself a wage. It's kind of really thinking about, like I say, with rehearsal time or time that you'd be otherwise working, your like day job. Those are the times that you quantify time to create and be able to subsidize your time and your wage. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to
yeah. And then another really interesting and relevant question, what do I do if I'm planning activities that is going to be impacted by COVID, i.e. if gigs are still not possible, if a band member has to shield?
Yeah, you've got to have a plan B, really. And at the moment it's do it differently. We're still not able to plan or to fund live gigs. I know we've got kind of a roadmap, but yeah, you can't really trust what the government say. So you've got to really have a plan B, and to think about, a live streaming plan to back up, or how the live event's going to be really, really safe. But really we're looking at recording, releasing, promotion, and equipment purchase still at the moment. So what you can do now in lockdown context is what we're still looking to do. So producing music and doing live streams is the primary sort of investment for Do It Differently at the moment.
And I know that there's been a few updates on the PR and marketing section of the funding. We've just got a question regarding that. What percentage of your budget can be spent on PR and marketing?
Yeah, so what we did for the COVID-19 rounds, especially adapted COVID-19 rounds, was actually just do away with the 50% cap, because PR and marketing is what you can be doing now. So we thought, let's get rid of that cap. There's still a cap of 50% on equipment purchase, because we still think there is kind of something to be said about complementing those kind of, getting new equipment, for example, getting coaching on using it and stuff. But you can technically spend your whole budget on PR and marketing. What I warn against that though, because the strongest projects are ones where you've got loads of different elements going on, and we're looking to support small scale projects. So, bands, independent artists, solo musicians, producers, music creators, who would, maybe do record, release, launch, and promote. You'd have all those elements involved. And it's good to be savvy with your promotion as well. So social media marketing, or maybe hiring a freelance person who's a real a specialist within your genre or within your local music community, rather than just throwing $3,000 at this PR company that kind of serves everyone and is a bit of a gun for hire, because it is charity money. So we're thinking about the best use and the biggest impact of our money and stuff, and what it's going to do for you. So think about how you can best use that PR and marketing costs.
And then just on the lines of percentage and the funding amount, you spoke previously about the skills funding, or it's not called that, but it's just if you want to learn a new skill, you can receive funding for it. Is there a cap on that amount? Oh yeah, sorry. So it's up to £1,500 for that. 3,000 for Do It Differently, and 1,500 for transmission. And with transmission, we're still looking, like I say, COVID friendly sort of projects. So travel and accommodation, whereas it would normally be allowed under transmission eligibility, is unfortunately not at the moment. So online courses, bespoke lesson plans, which I think are the strongest proposals, where you've gone out to that mentor, you've gone, this person really knows their stuff, they really understand my music, and they're an idol of mine. We've kind of put a lesson plan together, and it can happen in April 2021 with your support. So building that bespoke sort of package for yourself and for your needs is a really strong sort of way to go for that. Yeah. And can you apply for both Do It Differently and Transmission Fund?
You can, absolutely, because they are two sort of separate things. So like I say, Do It Differently is more the product, transmission's more the kind of intangible kind of skill building as well. So they complement each other quite well.
Is it likely to get both, or is that, I'm assuming that's very rare?
No, you can get both, and it does happen quite often actually, because like I said, they're kind of two different things, and it's quite a nice narrative to build your skills with transmission, and then you come back in and do a Differently fund application the next year, and then we kind of go, they've used their skills here, and they've really developed. So it can be a really nice narrative.
Is there do you favour people who've previously been funded from Help Musicians?
No, we don't. No, there's no favoritism. But there's no kind of rules against, if you've received a Do It Differently fund, you can't receive one again during, within that year. So there are rules against, people getting funded loads, but there's no kind of favoritism. And as I say, we've got an independent panel of experts who kind of make our recommendations and decisions for us, and a rigorous kind of scoring system in-house, where we kind of we do it against set criteria.
Yeah. We've got a number of questions come in. So the first one is, are there any specific requirements, e.g. line of work in the industry, for who you use as a reference when applying? Is there any requirements for references?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, like, it's basically a musician, music professional, music academic. Maybe they're kind of really prominent in their field. They're quite an eminent musician. Or maybe they're just like a teacher that you used to have, academic, that can really champion your music. And I think those are the best references, where they really talk about you as a character. I mean, because we get, sometimes get some really big names in, and they've written like a couple of lines, being like, oh, I know this person, we know for this bit. But the best ones where you might not even know the person, and they say that this person's like a great project manager. They're really dedicated. They've got a great work ethic. They produce really good music. They collaborate with all these people. They've done so much for the community. Like those are great. That's a great reference. And of course,
it can't be. Sorry.
So yeah, and I think I was just about to say what you're about to ask. They can't be connected with your application. In that they can't I'm going to give them £3,000 if I get funded. So yeah, they stand to benefit directly from a successful application, we say.
And it can't be a listener, I'm assuming, as well. A listener of your music. Who was your referee?
Was in like a fan or like a
yeah, kind of who's followed you along the journey and knows who you collaborate with, knows how you've been touring and this and that, like in depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could definitely be a listener and followed your journey. I think that would be a strong sort of thing, because they really know your story, and have seen how much you've developed. So yeah,
that'd be lovely. And then another question is, can I speak to anyone at Help Musicians for bespoke advice?
You sure can, and I'm going to put in the URL there. So that's you can sign up to one-to-one advice sessions, and that's the same link as well. We update it for each week. So yeah, you can save that link if you like. And you can speak to a member of our team and speak individually about your project for 15 minutes. It's just a short little form where you tell us about a little brief about your project and your experience of funding before, so we can really have a productive conversation. Yeah.
You guys do everything, don't you? That's amazing. Like, there's every question, there's an answer that's like, yeah, we do that, why not? And then I think the last question from this section is, to what extent is funding linked to income/means tested?
Okay, well, as in like like I said before, I think I'm understanding the question correctly. If you got over £16,000 in savings, then you wouldn't be eligible to apply. And like I say, we're looking at economic needs in that, it wouldn't happen without our injection support. But creative-wise, we don't ask for any sort of bank sort of details. For health and welfare, we would. But yeah, we're not so intrusive with that kind of thing. So yeah, I hope I've understood.
And then, but what about if it's they're currently in their day job is quite highly paid? Will that affect how much funding they receive, or is there, if you're paid over a certain amount, then it's not essential to yourself?
Yeah, so we ask you a question, how much income did you gain from music last year? But like, we don't really kind of assess or discriminate on that. It's just kind of for our monitoring and stuff. It's like monitoring questions. So we don't really look at that too much. But like I say, if you're a stockbroker that earns 100k, and you're going to have over 16,000 in assets or in savings and stuff, so you wouldn't be eligible. But yeah.
Brilliant. And I don't think we have any more questions, but there was just a little bit of confirmation regarding the live gigs.
Yeah, so under the current sort of criteria, we've not budged from it just yet, from the COVID-19 adapted rounds. So yeah, please don't apply for any live gigs or touring support just yet. Obviously, we're hoping we can throw the doors open for that once again, and we've had some really amazing sort of do it differently funded projects that have been tours, into EU or international dates and stuff. So yeah, hold your horses on that. Maybe look into live streaming still, or look into the recording, releasing, promoting at present. But yeah, here's hoping that by September or even before, we're going to have some live music happening.
Mm-hmm. Cross fingers. Yeah. I think that's all with the questions. So if you'd like to continue the slide.
I think that's all my slides.
Oh, is that? Yeah. I wasn't sure, so I was seeing if you were going to intervene.
Yeah, no, it's all right. But what I'll do as well, we've got a really nice offer from Chris Difford, who you might know from Squeeze, so Cool for Cats, all that malarkey. Amazing songwriter, Ivor Novello, award-winning. He's offered us some free online songwriting camps. I'll put the link down here. It's a draw. So what we do is we select randomly through your registrations. But go for that. If you've got a few free days, you can check the dates on there as well. So yeah, hopefully see you in one of those.
I actually did want to ask myself as well. You quickly mentioned on the previous slide about looking for musicians with a diverse background, which I'm assuming has to do with ethnically diverse musicians and LGBTQ musicians and musicians with all different experiences. How is Help Musicians ensuring that people are given a fair chance in that sense?
We focus a lot on equitability, and we do that through a number of internal processes, but also external sort of initiatives. So, for example, for internal sort of processes, when I was saying how we mark each part of the application, we will give extra marks to people outside of London. If you're an applicant outside of London, because it's not all about London, the musical communities everywhere that are so strong that we want to invest in. And we don't want a nation where you're always having to move to London to make music. It shouldn't be like that. So we give an extra mark for that, for ethnicity, for disability, and we have different kind of programs for different kind of endeavors as well. We've got the Mobo partnership. So it's it's quite similar to the Do It Differently package in what you get as support. But obviously it's a focus on music of Black origin and thinking about the genres that they cover, Mobo cover, kind of in Afro music and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we always cater for different backgrounds. We also, through our health and welfare bursary scheme, we've just, because there was a lack of representation from Black and ethnic minorities working as health practitioners, and we realized we had a lack of diversity in that sector. So we've done new bursaries for people wanting to enter that line of work, for Black people wanting to enter that work, and also for our mentors as well. We recently diversified our pool of mentors that offer business advice support, because a lot of feedback that we've had from musicians through our Mobo scheme is, the people that are offering support and advice need to understand the unique challenges that are faced from musicians, from that background as well. So we're listening to that, and we're a research-led organization. We do lots of surveys, we talk to people and do roundtables, and we think the best services, come from that. When you go out and speak to musicians and actually ask them what they want, and then build that service. And that's what happened with our Do It Differently fund as well. It's pure. It's like it was made by musicians for musicians, and we just think that's the best approach. We don't think we know everything, because we don't. It's all down to you guys.
It's really interesting, the point that you made. It's similar to therapy. People who want therapy maybe want a therapist who understands, innately the struggles that they go through, which is a really interesting and I think impactful effect that Help Musicians are going into and researching.
For sure.
Sorry, you can.
I was just going to say, we just had a really amazing case I don't think I mentioned her name, but she was supported by Do It Differently, and she a couple of years ago, and she got COVID, and she got long COVID, and she came back to us, and of course, like I said, you get like a health and welfare allowance through different Do It Differently, but also you can just access health and welfare through Help Musicians, even if you're not a supported artist. But she was able to choose the health practitioner that she wanted, and it was someone that specialized with Black and ethnic minority musicians and stuff. And yeah, she's a lot better now. But yeah, that's what I mean by that kind of bespoke sort of response that we're able to offer.
Yeah. And then we've got a question in regarding the funding aspect, with putting down the amount of money on the spreadsheet that is needed and equating it, because you mentioned previously that if you want 2,000, then you have to specifically put exactly what the 2,000 is spent on.
Yeah.
And could you go a bit more into detail? I know it's quite vague, but because I think it confuses some people.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest part. Definitely. Yeah, so we want you to be as detailed as you can, to do a budget breakdown. So musicians' fees, equipment purchase. Maybe you want to do URLs to the services or the equipment. And really, what your balance should be is zero. So you might have Do It Differently fund £3,000 as your income, personal contribution £150, and then PRS Foundation, you might be going for that as well, £2,000, so £5,125. Did I say 125 first? Yeah, and then you want £5,125 in your expenditure as well, so it should be zero. Does that make sense?
Could you go on a little bit more? But I understand.
No, it's cool. Yeah, so so it's your request amount and how you're gonna supplement it as well. So I realize what I've done now. So yeah, you put your equipment, your musicians' fees, and your those fees, if they add up to £4,000, then you'll want to put Do It Differently £3,000 and personal income £1,000 in the income bit, so it balances. So in one part you have what you asked for, and then in the second part you'll have how you're going to fund it, basically, and it should add up to zero. I've realised that I didn't explain that at all well first.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand. I agree. I think it's the most confusing aspect of it, but when you get it right, it's like, oh my god, what an achievement. It's
absolutely. I'm going to find a budget. There's a really good budget article that my Joe made for Do It Differently that I'll put in the chat.
And if there are any more questions, we're about to sign off, so please do send in any more questions, and I'll get them read. So is this specific to the budget, explaining in depth? Yeah. So that'll explain it a lot better than I did for that. I will just give it a minute to see if there's any more questions, and then, because a lot of people, as the Company of Me founder Tony has mentioned, rewatch this later on. So we'll see if there's any more questions, and then if not, I think we're all good to go in the sense that there are no more questions. And another thank you to yourself, Barnaby. That was really informative. I mean, from a musician myself, I'm just taking in the information and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now when I did that fund, now that adds up. Yeah, it's very good. And an amazing organisation Help Musicians is, especially during COVID. I mean, it's really helped a lot of people.
Yeah, I was really proud about our response. Massively proud. So and I'm hoping that we can adapt and help continue to help people throughout this challenging time as well.
I think that people also forget that it's a charity, that Help Musicians is a charity. Which is, I mean, even more admirable to help so many people. We have got one question though. I think one last question. If you list a person and their fees or an estimate of a cost, but then something changes during the project, do you get penalised for that?
Oh no, you wouldn't be penalised for that. What we do, if it's past the point of being funded, then you kind of have to update us. Just give us, a little update of that. And these things happen and these things change. Or if it's at the point where you've submitted your application and this change happens, then you just email in to creative@helpmusicians.org.uk, and we might be able to amend your application or take that into account. So yeah, as long as you just keep us in the loop, basically, that'll be fine.
That's amazing. Okay, I think that will wrap up today's session. And thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. And feel free to watch this back, which I'm definitely going to do whilst applying for anything that I do apply for.
Yeah, go for it. And feel free to get in touch, guys, via that link. And thank you, Maya, and thank you, Tony, and thank you, Emily. Thank you, Launchpad, and come play with me. You guys are great.
You did my job for me. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.